What's going on, guys? It's Andrew again. I'm gonna do a video for y'all today on doing axle replacement and doing some CA Tech limit straps on the rear. I'm gonna do install on both of those. Went ahead and took them out the box. I know some people like watching unboxing videos, but I just went ahead and laid everything out. Also ended up buying a spare rear as well. I just went ahead and got a Rhino 2.0. Just got a spare rear, and that's a Rhino 2.0 on the toolbox as well. I'm gonna go ahead and toss it in. They're just cheap replacements that'll keep them the weak link. That way you don't gotta worry about blowing up portals or transmissions. But anyways, I'm gonna film this video on a GoPro. It's my first time trying it out, so bear with me on this. But I'm gonna do a time lapse on the replacement of the rear axle, because people are always posting on social media and trying to figure out how to get a stuck axle cup out. And there's a couple different ways to do it. I've replaced hundreds of axles and I've had some really stuck ones, but I've got a method that I've pretty much been able to get every axle I've ever got my hands on out. So I'm gonna do a video on that, showing tips and tricks on how to replace these axles and show how to replace it with these portals. It's kind of a pain on the X3 due to them having the 3 radius rods and the way that the portal mounts. But I'm gonna take a video on all that and also do a video on those CA Tech limit straps. I'll show how we're going to install them. It's not gonna be a whole bunch on this video, but I'll do a time lapse on that, and hopefully I'll get some footage this weekend going riding. I was gonna video this past weekend. We went riding at Elton Swamp, and I got there, I don't know, 30-40 minutes down the first trail. I broke an axle. I broke it in a pretty wimpy hole. It wasn't in hardly any of a bind. I think the axle actually just overextended. That's why I went ahead and got the limit straps, because I wasn't in real deep mud. It wasn't loaded up real hard. It was just fully drooped out, and so it was sitting at some crazy angles, and I think it just popped the cup in there, or the cage. But anyways, I'll get back with y'all here shortly on the time lapse on this axle replacement. Well, as y'all can see in the time lapse, I had a slight issue with this middle radius rod, the toe link support. The misalignment spacers on the time joint, one of them was stuck on the bolt, and that thing would not come off. But I finally got it out of there. I'm gonna take it apart before I put it back together, and I'll clean it up. I'll probably put some anti-seize on it. But anyways, as you can see, what I like to do is keep the radius rod bolts through the trailing arm, and that just makes it a whole lot easier lining everything back up. I got the bottom one a little off, but that's no big deal. I can put it back in. And on top of that, the splines on the CV axle where they go in the portal were stuck. They didn't want to come out, so I had to pound on them a little bit, and I greased them up good before I put them in there. Well, they'll be getting a bunch of anti-seize when it goes back together. But anyways, I guess I'll show y'all my trick on getting these CV axles out whenever they're real stuck. As you can see, this one's, it's broken. It's broke on the place where most people's break, which is I guess a pain compared to the outside cup. But my trick is get a pry bar, get it between, well, I'm gonna have to get this smaller one to start off with. Get a small pry bar like that, put a little leverage on it, and then you hit it from the bottom side. So you'll hit down there with a hammer. You'll hit it towards the pry bar and it'll pop right out. I'm gonna go put this this GoPro back down, put it on time lapse, and hopefully y'all can get a view of what I'm talking about. Well, I decided to try out the mount that goes on your head, see if that'll give y'all a better shot of it. So I'm gonna start with this smaller pry bar here. Get it up against the transmission. You don't gotta put a lot of pressure, just put it up against the transmission and pry on. I'm gonna try to get a good angle. Well, I may have to pull the shaft out actually. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go ahead and cut the boot and get the shaft off, make it a lot easier. Oh, there we go. One busted. Yeah, it's what I thought. The cage just broke. It's still good on this part of the axle. But anyways, I'm not gonna keep it as a spare. It's more of a pain to rebuild them sun guns than it is to just buy another one and replace it. So now, I'll be able to show you what I'm talking about. There you go, that's it. And the cup's free. Try to not get grease on me, but that's it. That is it. It's that easy. And this axle has never been out since the bike was built. I've never pulled it, so it's been in there since it was manufactured. And comes out that easy. A lot of people will try to do the slide hammers and they work sometimes, but that's a method that never fails. It always gets them out. And as you can see, it doesn't do any damage to the transmission. All you're doing is getting the pry bar and putting a little tension just like that. Nothing crazy. And when you hit it with the hammer, it essentially pops it out, I guess like a pickle fork would. But I'm gonna do a time lapse, putting it back together, and that'll be a wrap on this. All right, well, I got that axle swapped out. I don't know how well the time lapse is gonna turn out. It's my first time trying it. But anyways, I had a little issue on it. These, for some reason, this inner axle spline did not want to go back inside the portal. So I persuaded it with a hammer and some PB blaster and some anti-seize, and it finally slid in. And I went ahead and fixed those 2 misalignment spacers on the toe-in support radius rod, that's what it's called. And that's all wrapped up and fixed. To be honest, I don't really see much difference in the factory axle, which is right here on this side, and the Rhino 2.0. They look pretty much identical in size. The cup on the 2.0 may be a little bit larger, but as far as diameter on the shaft and everything else, they look real similar. And I've been happy with the OEMs. They've held up surprisingly well. So we'll see how they do. I got a spare, like I said, and we'll see how they treat me. But anyways, I'm gonna do I guess an install on these CA Tech limit straps. I was gonna just do like a PRP strap, just a one size fits all type deal, but I really like these CA Tech ones. They come with this I guess like a bungee cord on it, so your strap isn't just flapping around essentially. Like at ride height, this bungee strap should keep your limit strap, I guess, in place. It's not just gonna be flapping around. So we'll see how they go, and pretty straightforward install. But I'm gonna put these on in hopes of keeping my rear axles from overextending, which is what I believe happened when I broke that driver rear this past weekend. So we'll see how these treat me, and if they work well, I may end up putting them on the front. But I haven't had any so far, I haven't had any issues on my front axles. Like I said, I blew up a smart lock. I don't know if y'all saw the video or not, but I broke my smart lock. That's my factory front diff over there. I broke the ring and pinion on it, but in the factory front axles are still holding strong. So I guess we'll see how this install goes, and yeah. All right, well, that's it on the limit straps. Pretty straightforward install, really. I mean, not a whole bunch to it. Really the only tricky part, and it's not really hard, it's just annoying on the, if you have snorkels or if you have an XMR for that matter, you can see the, well, let me try to get the focus. You can see the bolt, and it's got a spacer on it. Well, the bolt head is real close to that bolt that holds the cage on, so you can't get a socket on it, or a ratchet wrench. So you gotta sit there with 2 box end wrenches and tighten it, because you got snorkels on the other side and the bolt's in the way. But besides that, it's pretty straightforward. I was talking about earlier how they have the bungee strap on it, I guess you can call it that. So whenever this bike is at ride height, the strap stays tight. It's not loose and flapping around. But whenever the suspension travels, you got the extra slack in the bungee strap, but it keeps it tight. I just like that a lot better than having just some standard straps that just sit there loose and just little stuff. But besides that, it's pretty easy. Only time will tell if it really helps on these axles. I only broke 2. I broke one of each. Both times I believe was due to being overextended. So we'll see. And I guess that's a wrap for this video today. I'm gonna hopefully go riding this coming weekend, last week in October. I'll try to get some good footage. I don't know if we're gonna go to Zona ATV, Tower Tracks, Rocks Bottom, something, but I'll be sure to get some footage wherever we go. Y'all stay tuned.